That is, one is by means of elastic deformation, isn't it? And other is by means of what? Plastic deformation. And how can we explain these things? By means of stress versus strain graph. Stress versus strain graph. So what is mean by stress? Represented by the symbol sigma. That is what the what is mean by mental stress? Mental stress. That is, if you are loaded by means of, say, for a best example, if I am taking the class for nearly 10 hours, what is the problem? That will be the pressure applied on your face, right? On your head, isn't it? That is the pressure applied, isn't it? My voice is the pressure applied. And how your body reacts? The body reacts by developing what? Headache, right? Yes. Body reacts by means of headache, right? The headache is developed from where? The headache is developed from the body, right? So if you are giving a tensile load to a material, what the material do? Will resist that movement of material in this direction, right? That means the material offers a force in this direction. Am I right? Yes. So here you can see that the applied pressure is this P. That is applied on which area? This area. Okay. So what is pressure? What is pressure? Pressure is external force by area. Can I say? The external force by area. That is called as pressure. Then what is this force? What is this force? This force is, yes, internal resistive force. Internal resistive force, isn't it? The internal resistive force per unit area. That is what we call as the stress. Stress. That is internal resistive force. Internal resistive force divided by area. Okay. So here, what is mean by strain then? What is mean by strain then? The strain means 1 minute. Okay. What is mean by strain? Let's discuss that. Suppose a bar is having 7 centimeter length, 5 centimeter length. And here I am going to give a tensile load. Yes, good evening, Jodi. We have just started the new chapter, fracture fatigue creep. We are discussing about the stress and strain. You can also join. So here a material is taken which is having 5 centimeter length. Okay. And then a tensile load F is acting over there. Because of this tensile force, all of you listen carefully. Because of this tensile force, will the length increase or decrease? Yeah, it will increase, isn't it? It will increase. Yes, right. So suppose the final length after this tensile load is, say, 7 millimeter. How much is the change in length? 7 centimeter. 7 centimeter. How much is the change in length? Yes, 2 centimeter is the change in length, right? Then what is the original length? What was the original length? 5 centimeter, right? Yes. So 2 divided by 5. That is called as the strain. That means effectively what you can say? Change in dimension. Change in dimension, isn't it? Change in dimension divided by original dimension. That is called as what? That is called as the strain. Clear to all? Okay. Then I am going to plot a stress versus strain graph. Stress versus strain graph. Sigma is proportional to, sigma versus epsilon. What is sigma? That is stress. What is epsilon? That is strain. Okay. Then I'm going to draw the graph. The graph is plotted up to a certain region like this. Is my voice clear to all? Yes. Jyoti, please refresh your page. Here, up to this point A, starting from O, up to this point A, the stress is proportional to strain. Is it clear to all? The stress is proportional to strain. Okay, that means for a unit change of stress, there will be some unit change of strain. That slope will remain constant up to that point A. That means what? D sigma by D epsilon will remain constant up to the point A. That is, the slope will remain constant. The sigma is proportional to strain. Up to this clear? Okay. Next is, after that, again it is going to deform. And I got another point. I am going to name that as point as E. The OE is called as elastic limit. Elastic limit. Yes. What is the speciality of that elastic limit? That means the material will undergo elastic deformation. Elastic deformation. What is that elastic deformation? That means I am going to take a material which is having 5 centimeter length, and I am going to give a tensile load to that, and it is elongated to 6 centimeter. That is within the elastic limit. That strain is within the elastic limit. So when I release this load, what will happen is it will come back to 5 centimeter. That means it will come back to the original dimension. That is what we call as elastic deformation. Clear to all? Clear to all? So up to the point E, the OE represents what? The elastic limit. Up to the point OE, the material's characteristics is what? Elastic in nature, isn't it? Elastic in nature. That means when you release the load, it will regain the original shape. Clear? Can all of you hear me? Can all of you hear me? Yes, yes, right. Yeah. Then after that, let's see how the graph is going to follow. The graph is moving like this. That means it is going to enter the plastic deformation region. See, the curve reaches the point D. What speciality you notice the curve is D or the point D? What speciality is there for that point D? You can see that, all of you listen carefully, you can see that the strain is higher, right? The strain is higher. Am I right? The strain is higher, isn't it? The strain changes is higher there. What about the stress? The stress is decreasing. See, it is coming down. Stress is decreasing, isn't it? The stress here, it is sigma E. What about the sigma D? The sigma D is less than sigma E. Am I right? Yes. That means the stress is decreasing. The stress is decreasing. What about the strain? The strain is increasing. That is, deformation is increasing. What you can infer from that? That is, whenever I give a force to the material, when it reaches the elastic limit, what will happen? When it crosses the elastic limit, what will happen? Its internal resistive force decreases suddenly, isn't it? Its internal, that is sigma, decreases abruptly. Lead to what? Lead to more elongation, isn't it? Lead to more elongation of the material. Am I right? Lead to more elongation of the material, isn't it? Lead to more elongation of the material. Can all of you follow me that? That is, at the point D, we can see that the sigma is less, isn't it? That means what? The internal resistive force is low. Internal resistive force is low. What about the other one? The strain is higher. That is, the deformation is higher. Okay. And after that, again, the graph is growing up. That means what? That means what? The internal resistive force is increasing. Am I right? Internal resistive force is increasing. The sigma is increasing. And also the strain is also increasing. And reaches a maximum point. And reaches a maximum point M. Got it? And again, it drops down like this. And fracture occurs. Yes. So this is what we call as stress versus strain graph. This is the graph of a ductile material. A ductile material. What is the speciality of a ductile material? It will have what type of deformations? You can see up to OE. Give me the answer. Up to OE. What kind of deformation? Up to OE. From O to E. What kind of deformation? Yes, elastic deformation. And from E to M. E to M. What kind of deformation? E to M. What kind of deformation? Plastic deformation. That means it will not regain the original shape, isn't it? And F means what? The fracture. What is the speciality of this point D? The another name of this point D is called as yield point. Yield point. What is the speciality of that yield point? Can you say? Yes, that is the internal resistive force is less and hence the strain will be higher. Change in length will be higher. Am I right? Yes. Is it clear to all? The stress strain curve and different type of deformations. Is it clear? Yes, fine. Now we can move to the fracture. Fracture. There exist two types of fracture. Two types of fracture. Can you say? One is called as ductile fracture and other is a brittle fracture. Say, I took a wooden piece. I took a wooden stick. Is it a ductile material or a brittle material? Wooden stick. Wooden stick. Wooden stick. No, it is a ductile material. It shows the sign. It can bend off, right? It can bend off like this, right? Isn't it? It can bend off like this. That stick can be bent off like this. Isn't it? What about the case of a glass? If I take a glass, what kind of material? Can you bend it? Or can you apply some load over there? No. It will abruptly break down, isn't it? So, how will you draw the stress strain curve of a glass? Let's see that. Sigma versus epsilon. You can see that it has only up to the point E, and at point E itself F is also there. That means whenever it reaches the elastic limit, what is happening there? The fracture will also occur. Clear? Yes. So here, I took a wooden stick and I am going to break it. How would that shape occur? The two pieces, how will it occur? How will you see that two shapes? Sorry, the two pieces, how will you see that? That is, it will have the shape like this. The one piece will be here and another piece will have a structure here like this. Am I right? You can see that the first piece will have a cup-like structure. The second piece will have a cone-like structure. Am I right? Hence, it is also called as, that is ductile fracture is also called as what? Cup and cone fracture. Cup and cone fracture. Clear to all? Okay. Next one. Yeah, cup and cone fracture. Okay. Next is, what are the various steps which is undergoing while undergoing this ductile fracture? The first one is, when you give a tensile load to a ductile material, the first process is it forms necking like this. This is what we call as necking. You can see that the contraction occurs here. The next process is small internal voids occurs. that you can't see anything on the top surface. Okay, small voids occur. And again, I am going to give the tensile force. What happens is these voids unite together. Okay, these voids unite together. And to form an ellipse there. It forms an ellipse there. Okay. Again, the load is applied. What will happen is, how many axes are there for a ellipse? For an ellipse, how many axes are there? Yeah, two axes are there. This axis is, say, AB. What is that axis? This AB is called as the major axis. Am I right? And then CD, that is called as the minor axis, isn't it? And we are not dealing with the major axis. Again, I am going to give a load like this. Okay. That crack propagates. This crack propagates through a line. Listen carefully. The crack propagates through a line perpendicular to the direction of force. Perpendicular to the direction of force. The crack unite together. These voids unite together to form an ellipse. And the load is applied like this. The crack will propagate to outside regions through a line perpendicular to the direction of force. That means through which line? Through which axis the crack will propagate? The crack will propagate through the major axis of that ellipse. Clear to all? Crack will propagate through the major axis of the ellipse. Is it clear to all? And finally, it forms a cup and cone structure. I shall show the figure so that it will be clear to you. You can see that. First is what? First necking occurs. And next is what? Lot of internal voids are formed. These internal voids unite together to form what? An ellipse. Okay. And next is the crack will propagate through which line? A line perpendicular to the direction of force. That means through this major axis of the ellipse. Yes, it is happened and the crack occurs. And while separating that, you can see that here there exists a cup there and here there exists a cone there. Clear to all? This is how the ductile fracture occurs. When I break a glass, can you see this type of cup and cone there? Yes, no, isn't it? No, you can't see. You can see a perfectly flat surface, right? Perfectly flat surface with a glossy finish, right? That you can see. That type of fracture is called as brittle fracture. Brittle fracture. And that happens why? Because the grain boundaries, when you apply a load over there, the materials get drift apart through these grain boundaries. Can you recollect the grain boundaries? Through these grain boundaries, what is happening? These materials get slip off. Okay. That is what that's why the brittle fracture is also called as cleavage fracture. It's called as cleavage fracture. Clear to all? So these are the two types of fractures. One is ductile fracture and other is cleavage fracture. Shall I move forward? Okay, fine. Next interesting thing is that regarding with the brittle materials, one problem is found by Griffith scientists. Actually, okay, here this is the stress strain curve of a brittle material, say glass. Okay, and this is the point elastic limit and the fracture F is also happening there. And the elastic limit of the material is, listen carefully, elastic limit of the material, suppose So please take that value as 100. Okay. But before reaching 100, before reaching this 100 value, it get break off. That is say, when it reaches 60, it get break off. It is found that in the practical in the practical cases, it get breakdown when it reaches 60. So the Griffith, the scientist named as Griffith, solved that issue. That is, what is the problem? Why it breaks down before reaching 100? The reason is because the brittle materials are made by means of castings. That means pouring the molten metal or a molten glass and then solidification. So what will enter into that liquid medium? No doubt, air bubbles will be there. Am I right? Isn't it? So when you cast a material which is a brittle one, lot of air bubbles, that is air voids, will be there. When it is subjected to tensile load like this, what happens to these bubbles? This will act as the voids, right? These voids join together to form the ellipse. Join together to form the ellipse, and very easily the crack will propagate through the major axis, and hence the fracture occurs. Through that boundaries, the fracture occurs. Clear to all? So bone voids are there. Bone voids are there inside the brittle material. That is why it gets breakdown before reaching the theoretical limit. Before reaching the theoretical limit. Okay, that was the explanation given by Griffith why the brittle materials break off before reaching the elastic limit. Clear? Next one. Next is he also find out how much stress that material can withstand or it can produce. How much stress it can produce. That also is calculated by Griffith. For that, he put forward a theory. Okay, that is here like this. Let me take a new page. Up to this clear to all? Up to this clear to all? Okay. What is now he is going to find out? Here it is said that 60 is the practical limit, isn't it? So you can't go up to beyond the 60. Then how can I fix that it is 60? By means of experiments, if you are doing that means it is a hectic task. So what to do is you have to follow what the Griffith has said. Okay, he did lot of experiments and find out the values there, and then he formulated one expression. That is what we are going to discuss there. Say the energy required to produce a new crack, that you know. That means I want to produce a fresh crack on that material. That is, no voids are there. Say that much energy is, say, 50 megapascal is required. Suppose that is the value. Okay, energy required to produce a new crack is assumed to be as 50 megapascal. Okay, then next is when I give a tensile load to the material, what is increasing? The stress is increasing, isn't it? Along with that, the length of the material is also increasing, right? Length of the material is also increasing. Agreed? So when you plot a stress versus strain curve, when it is moving like this, you can see that the strain is also increasing. That means this is what we call as strain energy. Strain energy. Okay. When somebody, for example, when somebody beats you, what will be in your mind? You will have a revenge energy, right? You will have a revenge energy against that person, isn't it? So that like this. When I give a load like load here, what is happening there? A strain energy, which is our revenge energy, is developing here. Okay, revenge energy is developing here like this. My question is, when that revenge energy or strain energy dies off or comes zero, That is when that human being dies off, right? That revenge also get dies off. Similarly, this strain energy of the material, when it becomes zero, it becomes zero when the material get break off, right? The range strain energy becomes zero when the material get break off. Can I say like that? Sure. Once again, I shall explain. All of you listen carefully. I am going to give a tensile load to the material. So what happens to the stress anchor? It will go like this. If I check this point, I can see that this much amount of strain energy is stored inside this one. Epsilon 1 is stored inside this one. Here, if I check means I can see that epsilon 2 is stored inside this one. Can I say? Because of this energy stored, what will happen? It will try to regain the original position, right? It will try to regain the original position. When that tendency will be lost for that material? When it crosses the fracture point, right? When it crosses the fracture point, you can see that this revenge energy or the strain energy get dies off. Am I right? Yes. Okay. So energy required to produce a new crack, is equal to what? Decrease in strain energy. Can I say? Can I say? Yes, both are same, isn't it? The strain energy comes down when the fracture occurs. The fracture occurs when I give a force until at that point. Am I right? So energy required to produce a new crack is equal to what? Decrease in strain energy. Both are same, isn't it? By equating these two phenomena, what we can derive? We can derive the expression for internal resistive force, that is stress. Up to this clear to all? Okay. Next is consider a specimen like this. And here one external crack is there and an internal crack is also there, having length external crack is having the length C. The internal crack is having length 2C. Okay. So here I am going to find, here it is applied to a tensile load. Okay. Here I am going to find out the strain energy. Strain energy is equal to sigma square by 2E. That is equation. That is the strain energy per unit volume. Strain energy per unit volume is sigma square by 2E. Okay. I want to find out the strain energy occurs in this crack area. That means how much strain energy will get loss of at this crack area. That I have to find out. How can I find out? Multiply with that volume of that crack. Got it? Multiply with that volume of that crack. Am I right? Strain energy per volume of this material is sigma square by 2E. I want to find out how much strain energy get loss of due to this presence of this crack. How can I find out? Multiplying this sigma square by 2E with volume. So strain energy of the crack is equal to what? Sigma square by 2E into volume. Can I say? Then how can I find out the volume there? Consider this as the area. Sorry, this ellipse as the circle. Consider the ellipse as the circle. Okay, so very easily we can find out the area. Volume is what? Volume is equal to area into thickness, isn't it? Or area into height. Fine. Area into thickness or area into height. Okay. How many surfaces are there for this material? Two surfaces are there, right? Two surfaces are there. So how much is the surface area there? Two surface areas are there. So area of that crack is equal to what? Pi r square multiplied with 2. Can I say? What is the radius then? What is the radius there? What is the radius here? I am showing that the diameter is 2c. So what shall be the radius? Pi c square multiplied with 2. Can I say? Okay. So volume can be written as sigma square by 2e into 2 pi c square into thickness. Can I say? Up to this clear to all? Please give me your replies. Up to this clear to all? Can all of you hear me? Okay, I shall explain once again. Don't worry. So, strain energy per volume of the of this material of that material is sigma square by 2e. What is that material? The material is here like this. Okay. Suppose there inside that material there exists a crack. Due to the presence of the crack, some amount of strain energy get loss of. Am I right? Up to that clear? Some amount of strain energy get loss of. I want to find out how much energy get loss of due to that crack. Okay. So I know the dimension, that is the diameter of this much is 2c. For our sake of simplicity, I consider this ellipse as a circle. Okay. Ellipse as a circle. Up to that we reached. I want to find out the strain energy of this crack. How can I find out? The strain energy of this material is sigma square by 2e. Per volume is this much. So how can I find out the strain energy due to crack? That is equal to sigma square by 2e multiplied with the volume of crack. Can I say? Yes. Sigma square by 2e multiplied with the volume of the crack that you have to find out. We assume this crack as what? Instead of ellipse, we assume it as circle. So area of circle. How many circles are there for this material? It has two surfaces are there. So how many surface areas? Two surface areas are there. So area of the circle multiplied with 2 into thickness, right? Into 2 into t. Okay, next one. I am going to solve this. Sigma square by 2e multiplied with area. Area of the circle is how much? Pi r square. Pi into r. Radius is how much here? Radius is, the diameter is 2c. So the radius is what? C. Pi c square. Agreed? Up to this clear? Multiplied with what? 2 into t. Okay. Assume the thickness t is assumed to be as unity. So what shall be the strain energy? sigma square by 2e into 2 pi c square into 1. Can I say? Yes. So here, what is next? 2 and 2 get cancelled. Can I say like this? Pi sigma square c square by e. That is what? Strain energy, UE. Clear to all? Okay. Up to this clear to all? Shall I move forward? 1 minute, please. The pen is not working. Okay. Yes, next one. Next is what? I want to find out how much energy is required to produce a new crack, isn't it? How much energy is required to produce a new crack? That is the next one. That is called as surface energy. Surface energy. The surface energy of a material is termed as gamma S. Gamma S. Okay. The surface energy of a material of that given material is gamma S. That is a theoretical value. Okay. So here I want to find out how much energy is required to produce a crack having a length 2c. How much energy is required to produce a crack of length 2c? How can I find out? 2c into gamma s. Can I say? 2c into gamma s. Say, I want to make up a crack having a length 2c. So to produce that crack, how much surface energy has to be given? 2c multiplied with the gamma s energy that we have to give. Then only it will get break off. Right? Per unit length, the energy of the material is gamma s. Per unit length, energy of the material is gamma s. So, energy required to produce a crack for a length of 2c is how much? 2c into gamma s. Clear to all? But here, one more problem is also there. How many surfaces are there? How many surfaces are there for this material? 2 surfaces are there, right? So, is it 2c? Is it only the 2c? No, it has to be multiplied with what? 2 there, isn't it? 2 surfaces are there, isn't it? So 4c gamma s in effect. To produce a new crack, the energy required to produce a new crack is 4c gamma s. Is it clear to all? Can all of you please give me? Is it clear to all of you? Yes, fine. Now, what is next procedure? What is the phenomenon put forward by the Griffith? Increase, that is the change. I can say like this. 1 minute. Change in surface energy is equal to what? The change in strain energy. Can I say like that? And increase in surface energy is equal to what? Decrease in strain energy. Can I say like this? Change in surface energy is equal to what? The change in strain energy. What is surface energy? 4c gamma s. What is the strain energy? Sigma square, pi sigma square c square by e. Am I right? Then how can you represent the change there? That is next task. Check the variables. Among this, all of you listen carefully. Among this 4, is it vary? Will it vary the 4? Will that value vary? No. What about the gamma s? Will that value vary? No. What about the value of C? Yes, the crack length may vary, isn't it? So here, the change in surface energy is due to which one? Due to this villain, right? Due to the C. So the change is d by dc of what? 4c gamma s. Can I say? The change is due to the c there. I'm going to differentiate. Next, that is equal to here pi. Will the value of pi vary? No. What about the internal resistive force? No. What about the elastic limit? No. Sorry. What about the elasticity? No. What about the C? Here also villain is C itself. So d by dc of what? Pi sigma square c square by E. In both sides, you have to remove the constants. What are the constants on the left hand side? 4 and gamma s. 4 gamma s into d by dc of C is equal to here. What are the constants there? Pi, sigma and E are constants. So we can take outside. Pi sigma square by E into d by dc of C square. Right? Up to this clear to all? Yes, fine. Now I am going to start the differentiation. So here 4 gamma s dc by C d by dx of x raised to n is equal to n x raised to n minus 1. Okay, n x raised to n minus 1. That is equation. Here x is replaced by whom? X is replaced by whom? Give me. This is the general equation. Okay, all of you please note that equation. D by dx the whole raised to n, d by dx the x raised to n is equal to n x raised to n minus 1. Here the value of c is how much? Sorry, value of x is how much? C. D by dc of c. What is the value of n then? N is equal to 1. Am I right? C raised to 1. Agreed? That is equal to how much? 1 into what is the value of c? X c raised to 1 minus 1. That is equal to how much? 1 into 1. Am I right? C raised to 0 is how much? 1 itself. Isn't it? So answer is how much? 1. So can I write like this? In a doubt? So here this will be replaced by means of what? This will be replaced by 4 gamma s. Am I right? Yes. Is equal to here. Constants are what? Pi sigma square by E. Again, d by dc of c square. Please give me. Apply the same equation. D by dc of c raised to 2. Then what is there? N x raised to n minus 1. N is how much? 2 there, isn't it? 2. What is the value of c raised to 2? 2 minus 1. That is how much? 2c. Clear to all? So here it is 2c. Okay. Fine. Can you find out the value of sigma from this equation? Can you find out the value of sigma from this equation? Yes, we can, isn't it? By rearranging this equation, sigma square is equal to how much? 4 gamma s E by 2 pi c. Am I right? sigma is equal to square root of 4 gamma S E by 2 pi C. This is the derivation of what? The sigma for a brittle material, or this is what we call as Griffith crack theory. Griffith crack theory for brittle materials. Griffith crack theory of brittle materials. This is a continuously asking question in almost all the years. Can you score? Okay.